So my name is Jeroen van Velzen and I'm from the Netherlands and I'm a documentary filmmaker, and Tanzania Transit is my second feature documentary film.
So I'm going to start with this question and I'm going to ask you, how important do you think documentary film is now that it's becoming a bit more accessible to people, and what do you think the impact is?
I always find it fascinating to hear from the public standpoint when people say, hey, oh, you're a documentary filmmaker, super interested, I love documentaries. But the problem is people don't really take the time to watch documentaries, but it seems that everybody finds documentaries to be very important because it captures some essence of our lives and the importance of things we need to tell and need to show people. And it's one platform where a filmmaker, as a very small crew, can take a story from our real lives and bring it to everybody's to watch. And I think we all see the value of documentary as being very important, but I hope that in the future we will push a little bit more and give it a little bit more attention it needs, especially at schools, to get younger people more into the cinemas to watch documentaries again. Because we're noticing, like in the last years, that cinema, especially documentaries, in the younger generation, the attention is really diminishing. People are not watching enough documentaries. This is what I notice traveling around at different film festivals, what I hear.
Yeah. And do you think that, for example, for people to watch more documentaries, they should make the documentaries in a certain way?
I think documentaries should be made a little bit more accessible to the broader viewer. I mean, there's so many different types of documentaries. We have documentaries about famous people, football, about news, about things we like to see. There are short documentaries that are bullet documentaries that are giving, talking about things we just like to see in everyday life. But there's a lot of fantastic artistic documentaries which also have a really important cultural importance to us. My films, I'd like to see them more as cinematic documentaries telling a story, but using reality as a setting and with real people in a really real daily life. And I think that's also very important to get people to watch those kind of films.
How did you get to make a film in Tanzania about this subject? And how much did you plan the whole idea of a train? Or did it just develop once you got there?
For me, as a documentary filmmaker, I'm always planning everything. I have a concept, an idea, and I literally write out a storyboard, scenario. I make it as if a fiction film, and then once I have this complete idea, then I step into the real world and I let go. I throw it out the window and I just take what's there, and always knowing what I wanted to film in my mind and seeing where the alternatives are at the moment when I'm there. And so I think it's I'm that kind of filmmaker. And this is my last film, Tanzania Transit. It's set in East Africa, in Tanzania. But my father, he lived 35 years in Kenya. I grew up there as a child for a large part of my youth. And I got very much inspired by the people I met there when I was young. So I think films, especially documentaries, become good if they are really related to the filmmaker. Like the filmmaker has a personal relationship with the subjects and the story they want to tell. And in this case, my case, it's having lived there and spent a lot of time with the people.
But did you already knew the subject, or did you, because you said it was 3 different people?
Tanzania Transit is it's really following 3 people on the train. And the 3 people, Rukia is a woman, she's in the second class, in the female carriage, and she's really, she's inspired by somebody I knew as a child growing up at home. She was a cleaner, and she died of HIV at a very young age, and she had a real struggle in her life with very dominant men. And I was inspired to tell her story, which is really a lot of women's stories, struggling women in East Africa. And the Maasai men in my film are inspired by somebody who I knew as a child as well, who told me a lot about these stories about Maasai culture and how fast it's changing. So yeah, the theme of the story, I knew what I wanted to tell, and I went out there to re-find those kind of people from my past, and then I found them, and then I found the setting, which is the train, because I thought that represented for me like a microcosm of East Africa.
Is there anything else that you would like to say about, I don't know, the difficulties that you had while filming in the train? Was it like hard to get access into filming such a small place? Because I guess the train was still used for transit while you were filming it, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of difficulties on this train. Let me think which one I'm going to explain. First of all, filming in East Africa corruption is such a problem. I did research for closely to 2 years, not non-stop, but I was there on and off. I had all my paperwork done. I got allowed to film on the train with the people by the government. When I arrived there, the train denied access for me to film on the train on the last day, because they wanted to use me, manipulate me into making a positive film about the train company. And you never know how things are going to end up when you're there. You think you have made appointments and with people. You think, but it always turns out completely different than you think. So I lost, like on the first day filming, I lost the train I wanted to film on, and on the third day, my main character, one of Maasai men, it turned out he disappeared out of my life. So I could not film him either. You do have to be, as a filmmaker, very adjustable to be able to then find a different train or a different person, and not to give up, because you come all the way to East Africa with a film crew, which costs a lot of money. And then, yeah, but we were very happy we managed to make it work. While filming on the train, I think the most difficulty is that you can imagine that the train is in the third class wagons. They are filled completely, so you have 300 people in a very small confined space, and the camera is big and the train is shaking up and down, getting moved around heavily. All the windows are open, there's dust flying in, and it's about 40-45 degrees. So the working conditions are extreme. And as you're trying to move through these carriages, people and children are lying on the floor, so you have to climb over everybody. And of course everybody is very intimidated by you filming them very much in their face with the camera. So we spent a lot of time communicating with the people, trying to explain to them why we're there, so that they are, open and allowing us to be in their personal space. Which I think that really makes the film quite powerful, because you are constantly in the comfort zone of everybody. And the film, the camera is always, the film is made up in the edits of mostly close-ups. So you very rarely actually see what the whole train looks like from the inside or the outside. It's just all bodies, faces, and human bodies interacting with each other. Yeah, and it becomes very intense.
Okay, so you already kind of talked about the importance of documentary. Do you also have an opinion about how documentary changed throughout years? The genre of documentary filmmaking.
Throughout the years?
Past 25 years?
When I was studying documentary film at Amsterdam University for film, I was inspired by a lot of old films from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all over. And the great thing is that a good film is not made with technology. As we have small cameras, they cost a fraction of the money. We can use our mobile phones to film in high definition and even edit on them and have a reasonable sound. I mean, and this happens a lot. But it's so noticeable that good films are all about concept. And we have amazing films in the past flowing up through the years. It doesn't matter how they're made, but it's all about, I think, conceptual ideas forming into a story people want to tell and express. And I think film documentaries are changing more in how we bite information, how we are seeing that, you know, in an edit we used to have maybe 10 schnitz a minute, and now we're having 30 or 40 a minute, which is like every couple of seconds a new shot. I mean, things change, you know, that there is, you realize there's definitely a different change of rhythm and how much information we can take in. I think as films go, I think we can still be inspired by the old films. And I noticed some beautiful films around in these times that are inspired by old films. Yeah, and I find even in documentary, there's a lot of films being made that will withstand the ages, that are, you know, made now, and after maybe 50 years they can still be enjoyed by people in the future. And that's inspiring as well. Yeah.